Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Please help me welcome our next speaker, Jack. Jack, alcoholic. 3 minutes. That was fast. I'm crazy. So if you get anything out of this, you're lucky. I was 24 years old, and there was a judge that was a little bit irritated with me. I was one of the first freeway chases, and I had been to jail 3 months and 2 days before that, and he's looking at my papers on his bench, and he says, "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" And I said, "No, Your Honor." He said, 180 days next. I could think of a lot of things to say, but it was done. So I went off to jail, and when I was in jail, I wrote a letter to my dad. Now, my dad had gotten on the program 2 years prior to this, and he was 2 years sober. And I had put him in an institution 2 years before that. And he was introduced to a man down in Minneapolis. This man came out to the place where he was at and gave a talk, and the man made my dad pay attention. He was a multimillionaire, and my dad suckered the guy into being a sponsor, and so he had a sponsor down in Minneapolis, and he lived in a town of 250 people out in the western part of Minnesota. And I got thrown in jail, and I wrote a letter to my daddy, and I said, "Come get your bouncing baby boy out of jail," is basically what I said. And he got the letter at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, and he read the letter and called his sponsor down in Minneapolis, and his sponsor called the councilman out here in Los Angeles that he knew, and the councilman called the judge, and the judge called my daddy at 9 o'clock in the morning. Took an hour turnaround. Out to California, back to Minnesota. And they talked it over and decided to leave me in jail. So I did 111 days of the 180 days, and then the judge called me in for modification of sentence, and he did that so he could give me a 2-year probation period. And for 2 years, I was supposed to report to a probation officer and not drink or use or associate with those that did. And I'm ready to say, "Hey, wait a minute, I'll go back to jail." And he said again, "Next." And so I walked out of jail promising myself for 2 years I wasn't going to drink because I don't like jail. And it took me about 5 hours to get over here to Santa Monica. And I'm walking down the street over in Ocean Park Boulevard going to work. This is 47 years ago, you understand. And my buddies that worked at Douglas with me drove by, and I screamed, and they pulled over and stopped, and "Let's go over to the alibi room and celebrate." And I said, "I'm not drinking," and they said, "Well, we'll celebrate for you." 2 hours later, I was drunk. 2 weeks later, on a Friday night, I could remember a few of the things that I did. I was the only one in the car without a driver's license, and I was driving. And I can remember being down at the canals and flying over the canals. We were airborne. Everybody thought it was funny. But I woke up the next morning and I knew that I was going back to jail. And I had a date with a gal that night. And I went over to her place and walked in, and she said, crack a beer in the, there's a beer in the icebox, and crack one for me too. And that was back when you had church keys. And so I popped a beer, and I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at the beer, and I'm looking at her. If I finish the beer, I'm not going to do her. So I figured I better get out of here. Because if I finish the beer, I'm not going to do her, and I'm going to just keep drinking, and I'll end up doing something stupid again. And so I said, hon, I see you later. I got to get out of here. And she looked at me as if I just grew a new head. And she said, what? And I said, I got to go. Haven't seen her to this day. But that was the last beer I had. And that was somewhere in the neighborhood of April 22nd in 1957. And that puts me 47 years sober. Now, what I want to tell you is that that's when my problems started. Because I needed something to drink to keep this okay. Because I was crazy. And you give me 2 shots of Jack Daniels, and I don't care. I don't care what you think, where you go, what you do. Just go away, leave me alone. But 2 shots of Jack Daniels put me back in jail. And I don't like jail. I don't know about you, but I do not like jail. They tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. I don't like that. I have this attitude that I know better. I don't know if you understand that, but I got this attitude. And when I got sober, it didn't get better. I started going to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was introduced to a lot of people. And when I left my first meeting, I had talked to several people about getting my job back at Douglas. And when I left that night, they waved at me and said, keep coming back. And I thought they were talking about my job. So I was back there the next Tuesday. I figured I was going to get my job back. I didn't know that that was something that you do, keep coming back. I know that today. I was back the next week, and a gal by the name of Edna, who had seen me in the back row, brought a newcomer. The guy had 3.5 months on the program. His name was Bill. They call him Sam today, Serenity Sam. I call him Senility Sam. He's an old friend of mine. I started off trudging the road to happy destiny in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know that. I thought I was going to get through 2 years probation. And somewhere a few months later, I'm in a meeting at 26th and Broadway, and I'm standing up by the podium watching people come in, and I see this gal that she had done a lot of things for me, and I see her come in towing this young girl, and I duck back in the half measures room, and she comes around and finds me, and she said, this gal's name is Patty. Talk to her. Well, I couldn't talk, so we mumbled at each other for a while. And a couple of days later, I had living in an apartment down on the beach, And Edna drove her car into my apartment parking lot and said, "You guys wash my car. I'm going down and lay in the sand." And it took us 2 hours to wash the car. And in the process of the 2 hours, she figured out a way to convince me that I could take her to a movie. And so we went to a movie. And that was the beginning of a relationship. And she ran the whole relationship. And she made a decision. She said, "I'm going over to Vegas and get a divorce, and when I come back, we'll get married." And I said, "Okay." And she went over and got a divorce, and she came back. And we got married, and the next morning, her son moved in with us. And I had a ready-made family. And we started off trudging the road to Happy Destiny and program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the guy that I rented the apartment from he sold houses. And we moved out of that apartment, and we moved into another apartment that he had over on Wilshire, down the street down here. And he come over one day and he said, "I got this house. I want to come look at it." So I bought the house. And Patty and I were married for 9 years. And in the process of 9 years, I got better jobs. And I started making better money. And I was working like a son of a gun to pay off the house and take care of the cars and the clothes and all of the stuff that was necessary in the marriage. And I started working too much. And I was working 10, 12 hours a day. And I come home one day, and she said, "I'm moving out. You don't love me, and Jerry does." Jerry was a guy that I pulled out of Tehachapi prison. And she liked him more than she liked me. And I moved out, and I moved into a garage right over here. And I cried myself to sleep a lot because I didn't know what I did wrong. And I'm in a meeting on Monday night over here in Venice, and I'm telling my buddy Barney that I just want to go out and get drink just so I can start over again. And Barney always had a newcomer, and the newcomer said, "Well, why drink? Why don't you just start over again?" That's the only reason today that I have 47 years of sobriety. And I have 47 years of sobriety, and I lived in that garage, and the garage was right over here. And I lived in that garage for a year to the day almost. It was either a day longer or a day less. I don't remember which. What I started to do in that garage is I started working the steps over again. And I was introduced to some different attitudes towards the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I thought the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous were to make me good so that I'd be a good human being. And I was a pretty good human being anyway. And the thing is that Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is not to get you good. Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is teach you how to live with the only person that you have to learn how to live with, and that's yourself. Because I know what you want, where you want to go, what you want to do, because I'm always asking questions. What can I do for you? What can I do to make you happy? What do you want? Where do you want to go? And that's not what this is all about. 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous are not a path to get you good. What the first 9 are really simple. The first 9 are clearing away the wreckage of the past and cleaning out your head. And then they give you 10, and then the last half of 10, it says, "And when we were wrong, promptly admitted." That's to help keep it clean. It looks like the whole thing is cleaning up your life, period. The first half of 10 has a little bit something different in there. It says continue to take personal inventory. And I thought it was to take a personal inventory so I could find out when I was wrong so I could admit it. That ain't what it's about. There is one person in your life that you care about. One person, and that's yourself. And that is probably the only person in the world you don't take care about. You take care of everybody else so that you will be all right. And you never take care of yourself. And what I'm talking about here is not anything but being selfish. Now, they say this is a selfish program. Yeah, I'm not talking about cars and clothes and houses and stuff like that. If you come on the program and go to work, those things sort of fall in place. You got them. I mean, sometimes you have people work a little harder. And there are people in this room that have a lot of stuff. And you know something? A lot of stuff doesn't make you happy. The steps of Alcoholics Anonymous are not to make you into a good person. You sober up, and we usually try pretty hard to be likable all over the place. Most of us don't take care of ourselves. Most of us don't even know how to start doing that. And I'm not talking about things. I'm talking about learning how to live with the only person you really care about. And I was told by this young lady. This young lady was a very, very intelligent woman. And she said, Jack, what's important to you? And I said, I don't know. And she said, Jack, what could you put in your life? And if you put that in your life, you'd have a good life. And I said, I don't know. She said, Jack, those aren't very good answers. She says, there's only one person in this world you really care about, and you don't even care about him. You don't even try to take care of him. When I came into this program, I wanted to look good to you. Do you know I had 48 sports shirts? I had about 11 suits. I don't know how many pairs of shoes I had. I had 27 white shirts. Now that's a little bit ridiculous. I'm living in my apartment that I moved into after I was down there for about a year. And I got this closet just loaded with stuff. And I had this guy that I gave some coffee, and I said, you can come in anytime you want to. And I come home a couple days later, and I think I got 5 or 6 really tattered white shirts. I got 2 pairs of pants, and both of them got holes in them. I got 1 jacket, and all my T-shirts are gone. I've been cleaned out. And I was introduced to people in the world today. And the thing is that I got introduced to the fact that I better start taking care of myself. Do you know that there isn't anybody in the world really interested in taking care of me? No, that's a lie today. Today, that's a lie. I've got 2 people that are taking care of me. I retired 7 years ago. And about a year and a half after I retired, my great fund that I was put together so that I could live comfortably for the rest of my life, I'm still looking for it. It went with the stock market. It's gone. Now, I'm not talking about feel sorry for me. I had a guy come over to me and say, what do you need? I'm being taken care of today. I've been given a couple of things to do, and I feel ashamed talking about them because I enjoy doing them, and they pay me a lot of money to do that. This world, when you start taking care of yourself, when you start trying to be a halfway decent human being, things turn around. I don't know why or how or what. The thing is that I walked around and I had this attitude. And I was angry all the time. Do you know I had a shop down in Venice for 28 years? And I'm in there one day, and this guy comes in, and I'm working on a carburetor. And this guy, I liked working on his car. It would take me 45 minutes to work on the car, and it'd take me an hour and a half to get rid of it. Because he wanted to find out why I did this and how I did that and when, you know, da-da-da. He came in one day, and I'm working on this carburetor, and I said, why don't you take your car up on Lincoln Boulevard? There's some good shops up there. And he keeps talking, and I said, take your car, and I didn't put it so nicely, and leave. And he finally left. Thought I'm done with him, thank God. 2 years later, I'm sitting at the desk one day, and he comes, drives his car, parks it right in the middle of everything, gets out, walks over and slaps the keys on my desk and says, call me when it's done. I look at him, and he's gone. He just left. So I'll stare at the car for 2 days. I park it over in the corner. And I call him up 2 days later. What are you going to do with this thing? And he says, is it done yet? And I said, no. And he said, call me when it's done. He's hung up. And I figure out what it needs, and I call him up, and I said, well, it needs, and he says, is it done yet? And I said, no. And he said, call me when it's done. So I finished the car, call him up, and I start telling him what I did, and he said, how much? And I told him, and he said, thank you, and hung up. Came down there and paid the money out, threw a $5 bill on top of it, grabbed the keys, and left. He does this for 2 years. One day I'm sick and tired of him coming in, and I don't even know what. He just says, call me when it's done. And he doesn't even question what I did to the car. He just pays the money and leaves. So grab the keys, and I stick them in my pocket, call him up, and says, it's done. He comes in, and he counts the money out, and he said, where's the keys? And I said, right here. He said, well, give them to me. And I said, soon you need to tell me, what the hell is this? Call me when it's done. And he said, you kicked me out of here. And he said, I went to several places, and I didn't like the way they worked on my car. I like the way you work on my car. If you don't want to talk to me, fine. Just call me when it's done. I began from that point to understand or to see finally, and I'm talking about I've got years in sobriety, but I finally saw that I'm walking around defending myself all the time. I'm always just ducking and dodging because I'm afraid you don't trust me. And I'm afraid you don't like me. And I'm afraid. And I'm not talking about just brand new coming in on the program. I'm talking about many years on the program. And when this guy asked me, Jack, what's important to you, or the gal did, I didn't know. I did not know what was important to me. And to tell you what I would like to do, I couldn't even do that. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous clear away your head so you don't have a bunch of junk up here. It gets you clean, not so that you'll be acceptable, but so that you can figure out what is important to you. Now, the 10th step they throw in at, and when we were wrong, promptly admit of it. But the first half of the 10th step is an introduction into this head. And I was told, I had a therapist. She got so mad at me. She threw her stuff down one day. And she said, will you stop that? And I said, stop what? And she said, stop calling yourself dumb. Stupid, yes. Dumb, no. She gave me a battery of tests. She proved to me that I'm a genius. Not a high-level genius, just a mid-level genius. I got a very, very fast head. The people that I have worked with on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous are very, very intelligent. They're super intelligent. And the thing is that they don't believe in themselves. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous, these first 9 steps are to clean away the junk in your life so that the first time in your life there's a possibility. I'm not talking about that it's gonna be, but there's a possibility that you can get comfortable. And then when you get comfortable, to learn how to live with the human being that you are. And that's what this program is about. Do you know how hard it is to become comfortable with yourself? Do you know how hard it is to go down inside yourself and stop BSing yourself? And that's what this thing is about. And most people don't know, they don't even have the faintest idea what's going on. There are people in this room, there's a couple of people in this room and that I can pick out and I can, no bullshit. They're very, very intelligent. And you put them anywhere, I don't care where, you put them anywhere and they'll come out and they'll be doing something that's profitable. And they can start making their way, not just to survive, but to look good to everybody else. And everybody else standing there, how do they do that? They came in here with nothing. And they're important. And they got big things going. How do they do that? That's what you're living with. You're living with this intelligence. And you're living with this capacity. And we don't believe in it. There's a couple people in this room that I almost have to beat them on the head to make them look at what they're doing. And they're putting it together. And they don't see it. There's a couple of them back in there giggling right now. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous is not to get good. It has nothing to do with getting good. It's to learn how to live with the only person you care about in this world, and that's yourself. And you sit there and you look at, it came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Do you know that if you open the 12 by 12, the whole chapter talks about God, except for the last 3 paragraphs. And then they talk about being restored to sanity, taking care of yourself. And it said, do you know, I'm on this program for many, many years. In fact, it was 19 years. And I ducked step 3 all the way. It says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. I figured if God ever figured out where I was at, I was in real deep trouble. You understand that? I'm in a movie called Star Wars, and I'm sitting in the back of the movie, and it's at Christmas time because that's when I went to movies, because nobody wants to spend any money on a car, and I got an auto repair shop. So I'm standing there, and the people are coming in, and do you think this will last till March? So I used to shut my shop down at Christmas time, and I'd go to movies. And I was in this movie, Star Wars, and I'm sitting in the back of the movie, and it's in the afternoon, And there are two couples sitting in front of me, two rows up. And I'm sitting by myself in the back. And this one actor said to the other actor, "May the force be with you." And I started laughing. I started laughing because for the first time in my life, I had the idea that I could have a higher power that had no rules and regulations. Because I have had a force working in my life just unbelievable. It saved my life several times. I'm in the storm on a ship in the North Atlantic. And the chief says, we're going to go out and chip some ice. And so I got this fire axe. My buddy's got a fire axe. And we go out there, and the chief says, start here. And we're all tied to the ship. And my buddy goes like this here, and I step back 2 steps. And he hits this bulkhead and a piece of ice, about 10, 12 feet long and about 9 feet high and about a foot thick, comes off the bulkhead, and it goes right where I was standing. And it cleans out the railing. It would have taken me with it. And the chief said, all right, everybody back in. My life was saved that day. Just by, just something said, step back. I have been living like that, and I'm not talking about praying or anything like that, because I knew if God ever figured out where I was at, I was in real trouble. It says, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Then it says, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. I figured defects of character and shortcomings were the same thing. Somebody told me something that changed my life. A defect of character is something that you do that you shouldn't do. And a shortcoming is something that you don't do that you should do. And we're not talking about that you should do so that you will look good to other people. We're talking about something that you should do so that you will look good to yourself. And I'm not talking about taking things away from people. I'm not talking about money and property and prestige. I've just a very few things in my life that mean anything. If I don't have the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't have nothing. Because the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me how to live and take care of this man. Now, they used to tell people to come over to my shop. Just go over to Jack's. Don't talk too much to him. He'll run you out. He'll think you don't trust him. I didn't know that. Now, the thing is that I never asked for what I wanted because I didn't know what it was. And you know what? I used to drive Cadillacs and Chryslers, big cars. I wanted to look good. And after I got that word that I better take care of myself, I better learn what's important to me, I became a smartass. I had a beat-up old Volkswagen, and it was the early Volks, and I put a late model engine and transmission in it. No, 8 model engine with the small transmission. Now, from 0 to 60, it'd get there just like that there. There wasn't anything in town that could beat me off the line. And that thing looked like the wrath of God warmed over, and it'd sit there and shake, and everybody would say, Jesus, get away from us, it's going to fall apart. But you could pull up alongside of a Corvette, and for the first 100 yards, they couldn't touch you. And that's the thing that I turned into. I turned into be important to me. Do you know what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're crying because you don't know how to live, and you don't know why they treat you the way they treat you, and you don't know what to do to feel good? I did that for many years on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I did that for many years on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous because there was one person in this world that I wasn't taking care of, and that was me. And I'm not talking about ignoring other people. I'm talking about for the first time in your life, you clean away the junk in your head so that the first time in your life you can be comfortable. And money doesn't mean anything to me. Now, I have to have it to eat. I love the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I love the life that I live today. Do you know why? Because I don't have to prove anything to me. And do you know why? If I really want something, I go get it. And I'm not talking about things so much. And do you know that I sat back there where Woody's sitting right now? I sat back there for years. And I sat back there and I was afraid to talk to people. And there was a gal that came in here, and this is a real thing. There was a gal that came in here, not to this room, it was another room, and it was several years ago. But she came into the room, and it was one of those things, to this day, I don't know what she looks like. But she came into this room, and I turned around like this here and looked away. And I did that because I knew that if I looked at her, she would know I was obsessed. And I watched her come into meetings in this program for 3 years. And I finally got sick and tired of it because I knew if I went up and said anything to her, she'd ignore me. You know how you feel that way? And I walked up to her and I said, hey, why don't you and I go out for coffee? And she turned to me and looked up at me. And she said, you son of a bitch. It's your place or mine. We had one wild relationship. Now, what I'm talking about is backing yourself up. Do you know how hard it is to back yourself up? And that's what these steps are about. They're not about getting good. They're about teaching you how to live with the only person you really care about in this world. And that's yourself. And things don't mean nothing to me. I am the worst person with things. I don't care nothing. I got a computer. And all I have is my pictures in it. He works on the computer. My computer was expanded 4 times. He doubled it 4 times. And finally it got to the point it was staggering around, and it took a long time for it to do anything. You know what I got just recently? I got a new computer. Works pretty good, don't it? I'm obsessive about photography. There's only a few things in this world that mean anything to me. And do you know that I ignored photography for a long time? And I ignored it because I didn't want anybody to know I really liked it. Because if I figured if they found out that I really liked it, I couldn't take pictures anymore. I learned how to live this way when I was about 2.5 or 3 years old. I found out when I was a little kid, if I liked something, they took it away from me to discipline me. And I found out that if I really like something, I better ignore it because they're going to take it away from me. And I lived that way not till I was grown up, but until I was 47 years old. And then the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous forced me to start learning how to live with this man here. And that's what the program is all about. It's not about getting good, not about taking care of other people. It's about learning how to live with the only person you really care about. Do you know what 2 shots of Jack Daniels does for you? 2 shots of Jack Daniels says, see you later. Have a good day. I'm gone. Do you know that I can't do that? And what I had to do was I had to learn how to live without that comfort. Do you know that the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous say you can learn how to live with yourself and learn how to live and be comfortable? And that's all this thing is all about. It's not about getting good. It's about learning how to live with you, and thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.